James Gunn defends Superman from woke criticism, saying the film simply revives kindness as the guiding principle of America's original hero. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. The controversy surrounding Superman began when conservative pundits took issue with the movie's tone and themes. They criticized the portrayal of Superman as an immigrant being a moral beacon, arguing that it inserted woke politics into the legacy of a beloved character. James Gunn is setting the record straight about DCU's first feature, Superman, which has been labeled as super woke by many critics. Gunn, who is known for breathing fresh life into iconic franchises, has now stepped up to defend his project. The movie stars David Corenswet as the Man of Steel and is already receiving love around the world, which is evident in its box office numbers. But after being accused of pushing a political agenda, Gunn revealed in an interview with Entertainment Weekly that it's not about what people are framing it to be. I mean, people did value kindness in the past. That was an American value, kindness, and it doesn't necessarily seem to be that way to me anymore. So that was always the center of the movie for me, and it wasn't about anything other than that. While much of the discussion has been hijacked by buzzwords like woke, Gunn made it clear that Superman is simply about reviving kindness. And I said, yeah, it's a story about an immigrant, but mostly it's a story to me about kindness, which it is. That's the center of the movie for me. Gunn tried to hammer home the point that Superman had no political agenda, other than telling a story, with kindness as its core. But the backlash itself, ironically, reflects what Gunn said in the interview about how something as basic as kindness, one of America's foundational values, is being dismissed or politicized, but Superman is here to remind us that it shouldn't be. But James Gunn did not shy away and responded to the backlash, pointing out the absurdity of the term super woke. The filmmaker said that he doesn't understand what exactly, in the movie, is considered woke. He revealed that it all began when an interviewer mentioned how the story of Superman was written by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who belonged to an immigrant family. In the Moravia-Jarhanpur conflict, his defense is simple and unapologetic: people are going to die. David Corenswet's superhero is positioned as someone who does not let diplomacy outweigh decency, and that is beautifully pristine in every way possible. This is the Superman that its creators envisioned, a powerful outsider who leads with compassion. The emphasis on kindness, according to Gunn, isn't just an addition to Superman's mythos, but also a restoration of American values. Now, kindness is cool again, thanks to Kal-El. But what do you think about Gunn's take on Superman? Is it too political for you, or too politicized by people? Beneath the cape and the alien origin, James Gunn's Superman repeatedly reminds us that he's just as human as us. The movie doesn't just tell us that he is kind, it shows us, again and again, that kindness is not a side trait for the character, but the core of his being. This is a Superman who would pause in the middle of a large-scale battle to save a squirrel from getting crushed, a moment that won us all over. This scene was not comic relief, but an intentional way to remind us that to the Man of Steel, every life matters, no matter how small. His compassion also shines during his interaction with Lois, Krypto the Superdog, or when he thanks the robots in his Fortress of Solitude, even after knowing they don't have consciousness. Through these moments, Gunn shows that Superman doesn't reserve kindness only for those who can return it. James Gunn has been on a roll after the release of Superman, and here's every major reveal by Gunn about Superman and his future projects. Welcome to Stats In. If you're just joining us, please subscribe and don't forget to turn on notifications bell for more video. Being a lighter and colorful take on the character of Superman, monologues and dialogue-heavy scenes weren't really James Gunn's style. Even if he did, it would probably be for comedic effect. Surprisingly enough, the DCU flick does feature a 12-minute dialogue scene between Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan, and Clark Kent, played by David Corenswet. Being weary of a world that had turned against the very superhero they prayed for, Superman flies through the open balcony of Lois Lane's apartment, where the two sit down to have a heart-to-heart talk about who Superman really is, while Lois Lane contemplates breaking up with him. James Gunn has been hammering and toiling away to create a cinematic universe that these DC characters can call their home. With the release of Superman, and the film getting rave reviews, including one from me, there has been a ton of chatter and revelations by director James Gunn about Superman and the DCU. From the potential return of Henry Cavill to James Gunn's DCU to Bradley Cooper almost starring as Lex Luthor instead of Nicholas Hoult, James Gunn's Superman is filled with riddles and secrets that Gunn recently revealed in the Happy Sad Confused podcast. Well, here's every major Superman reveal by James Gunn and what it means for the DCU. Throughout his extensive Hollywood career, James Gunn has always relied on songs from the 70s and the 80s to put the audience in a groove. Compared to his other superhero movies, Superman has a lack of songs and rather relies on the music score composed by John Murphy and David Fleming to set the tone of the movie. Although there are songs in the movie, they are used sparingly throughout the entire 129-minute runtime. Remember, punk rocker in the closing credits. During his talks with the Happy Sad Confused podcast, the director reveals that the 12-minute talking scene was the biggest creative risk that he took in a superhero movie, but it paid off well. Before he was cast in the role of Jor-El alongside Angela Sarafian as Lara Lorvan, Bradley Cooper was initially considered by James Gunn to portray the role of Lex Luthor. However, the actor revealed in the podcast that he wanted Lex Luthor to be contemporary of Superman's age. And since Bradley Cooper was a little bit older, he wouldn't fit in the age range of David Corenswet's Superman. Gunn admitted that Cooper would have been a great Lex. With that age factor in mind, Gunn decided to take Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Gunn revealed in the Happy Sad Confused podcast that this decision was scary, since he hadn't done it before. Several of the original scores had to be toned down and made lighter to fit the theme of the movie, and the movie, Jor-El's remaining half of a message is decoded by Lex Luthor. The latter half of the message instructs Superman to conquer Earth and make it a second Krypton. Throughout the movie, audiences are kept in the dark about whether that message was fabricated by Lex Luthor or was it real. However, in the podcast, James Gunn revealed that Jor-El and Lara's message is real and not at all doctored. The reason for this controversial choice was that Gunn wanted the audience to realize that Superman was his own person with his beliefs and moral codes, despite being directly ordered by his biological parents to conquer the home where he was raised. However, James Gunn did give Bradley Cooper his due screen time when he cast Cooper in the role of Jor-El, who appears in a hologram message in Superman. However, as the trailer dropped and hype started, people started accepting David Corenswet as the new Man of Steel and eventually fell in love with his portrayal, again, me being one of them. When David Corenswet was initially cast as Superman, there was an intense backlash because of Henry Cavill's controversial exit and his millions of fans, me being one of them. In the movie, we are introduced to some new and old characters from James Gunn's DCU, namely, Guy Gardner/Green Lantern, Nathan Fillion, Hawkgirl, Isabella Merced, and Mr. Terrific, Eddie Gathegi. The three heroes call themselves the Justice Gang and are financed by Maxwell Lord, who was played by Pedro Pascal in Wonder Woman 1984, and the film depicts an unfinished Hall of Justice building. The murals depict several heroes like Jay Garrick, Flash, Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and Dr. Fate, which suggests a history of the Justice Society of America. During his talks with IMDb, James Gunn revealed that he was watching the 2022 horror film Pearl. Corenswet had portrayed the role of the projectionist, and Gunn thought,